This frame I'm working on has heaps of curved walls. I've already built quite a few, as you can see around me, but we've got one more to go, and we're going to jump upstairs and I'm going to take you through the process, start to finish, on how to build a curved wall like this. Alright, so if we have a look at the plan, this is a curved wall we're building here. And here we've got a 515 measurement. That's the radius of this center point of the circle to the inside of this curved wall. So in terms of marking this out on the slab, I've gone ahead and these curves are already marked here. You actually don't need to mark those at all. All you need to do is mark your straight wall going all the way through to the intersection there, and this one coming through that way. Obviously right now where I'm working, we are in between slabs. So I'm not actually going to be stick building this wall, but if you are going to be stick building a curved wall, I'm also going to tell you what you can do to build a curved wall as a stick build. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to cut in our top and bottom plates. Obviously we're not going to be using 90-45 pine for this. What I recommend using is form ply. Since this stuff is only 16-17 mil, we need to double it up. Meaning I'm going to cut 2 bottom plates, 2 top plates. I'm going to shoot them together, so that way when we shoot through to our studs, they've actually got a solid fixing. There's plenty of ways to mark out the bottom plate on your ply. I'm going to show you what I use. I think this is the easiest way. Now we found out that the radius of our circle, of our curved wall, is 515. What I'm going to do is cut just a piece of pine. It can be anything, just a little bit bigger than that 515. I'm just going to go through and cut something at 600. And with this bit of timber, I'm just going to hook over one end and mark 515 on it. So with that 515 mark, I'm just going to grab a framer and we're going to hammer it straight through the center of the timber. So before I do nail this into the form ply, I want to move this template around. And what I'm going to do is nail that into the form ply. That's going to be the fixed point. And I'll be able to spin this, making that radius go around. To optimize as much of the sheet as possible, you'll go through so much of the sheet quite quickly. I want to put it in a rough location so I can move it up here, have at least 90 mil that way, and then spin it down this way. And see, that's too short there, we'll move it up. So we have about 90 mil that way. I'm going to nail this in here. Now there's heaps of different ways to do this. You can have a nail there and just have a string line set at 515, whatever your measurement is, and hold a pencil on that and move it around. You can even hook your tape over that nail, lock your tape onto that 515 mark there. So there's a nail there, hook it over and just spin the tape around marking it. If someone does have a way and they think it's quicker or more efficient than this, please leave a comment. I'd love to know if there are better ways to do anything that I do. From this point though, I'm going to hold my pencil in the middle of the timber here. I'm going to keep it in the middle. And I'm just going to start rotating this timber around. And I'm just going to be marking the circle in the form ply. So in this instance, we have 2 walls coming at a 90-degree angle, and it's going to be hitting this curve. An easy way to know exactly where to cut this curve off at is I can run my speed square on the side of the form ply, and I can find the point of the circle where it stops and starts to curve around the other way. We'll screw up there, and that's where we can cut off the circle. That's where it should line up with our 90 mil wall coming this way. And obviously the same thing over here. All right, so we've got that pencil line through there. So obviously we need another line 90 mil away. The reason I find this block way to be the best way to do this is because I'll show you what you can do next. So I've got a little offcut of what one of our studs are gonna be. Obviously I'm gonna sit this on the bottom plate, and I want the bottom plate to be the perfect size of this. So what I'm going to do is, this block's still in place, slide it over to the start. I'm going to put the offcut of the stud next to it. Now I'm going to mark directly in the middle of where this radius bit of timber is of this block. And I'm going to keep pressure applied. I'm going to spin them both around together. Now we've got 2 lines of where we're going to cut out this bottom plate. So one little thing to note doing it this way is, first we have this line here. This line is basically directly underneath the block right now. We want to keep that line on. We don't want to cut that off. And now this line is marked on the outside of this block, so we want to cut that line off. That's not going to make a lot of difference, but it's just adding an extra mil or 2, which could make your bottom plate a little bit wider than your stud, which is going to be a bit of a pain when it comes to straightening. So now I'm just going to jump into it. We got the jigsaw. I'm just going to cut this out. And I want to especially take my time with this one, because this will be the template for the other 3 plates. Now what we can do is lay that on the board, trace around it and use this as a stencil. Before I do that though, let's check it with our wall lines over there just to make sure it's right. So as I said before, pretend this isn't here. You don't need that curve on the ground. What we're gonna do is move this over and we just wanna make this end line up with that line through there. And this end line up with that wall line through there. All right, that's great. It means we can use this as a template and make 3 more. It's a bit hard to pick up, but we've got 1, 2, 3 marked there. Obviously for these 3, the pencil line is showing the outside of the shape. So I'm gonna go through and cut off the pencil line in all of these. That's all 4 of these cut out now. So the next thing what I'm going to do is just line them up on top of each other. We'll double them up. Then I'm just going to use a few clouts for now. And even do 3 clouts per plate, just to temporarily hold them together. I'm going to double up both of the plates now. We're just going to leave them there while we mark them out. So I'm just going to do a cross at either end. We're going to have a stud at either end of this. From there it's going to be 150 centers. And I'm just kind of bending my tape and getting it rough. It's hard to do a perfect measurement when it is curved and obviously the tape's straight. So that's why I definitely double them up right now. So in this way we know that the stud placement is going to be exactly the same on both of these plates. So doing a stick build, I would lay both plates up on your edge like this. They might fall over. Obviously you'd open them up to the length of your stud. And honestly, all I'd do is shoot this end stud in on that side. Obviously you shoot it there, you shoot it to the other plate. And then I shoot that end stud in on the other side. I wouldn't worry about any of these other marks we've got going through the middle. We'll just do the end studs. And then I'd suggest standing the entire wall and putting the rest of the studs in while the wall is up. That's just my personal preference. I find it a lot easier to do it that way. Because otherwise, your curve's going to be sitting up like that. And you're going to try to hold every single stud up. Unless you're doing it with 2 people, which it could work this way. But if you're doing it by yourself, each of your studs going to be on the angle like that. And it won't be a clean, flush finish when you shoot your nails in. So yeah, that's what I do for stick building. This isn't a stick build though. So let's continue on with what we'll do for both concrete slabs. All right, so we're going to sit this double bottom plate down in place now. We'll get that right. And as soon as that's good, we're just going to shoot it into place using the ram set. Alright, so the next thing is I'm not going to shoot the top plate in yet. What I prefer to do is I'm going to shoot the plates in for both of the walls that butt up into the curve. The left hand side here, that's just a normal wall the whole way through. And on that side, it's just a bulkhead. The main thing I want is a top plate on both of those walls. So that's fine that it's a bulkhead. We're just going to shoot the top plate up on both sides. And that's going to make it a lot easier to get our top plate of our curve in the right place. If this was a timber frame that I was doing, I would obviously cut the top plate and bottom plate exactly the same. Now I probably could do it here because there's a steel frame and I can move that if it's out of plumb. The majority of the walls I'm building, especially downstairs, they're going to be butting up straight into concrete. If that concrete's out by 2 or 3 mil, I'm obviously not able to move it. So what I've been doing is putting the bottom plate in, plumbing up that mark and marking that on the ceiling. And then I can remeasure the top plate from that top plate up there or the concrete up there through to my mark. And that way, even if the concrete is out a little bit, at least my wall's straight and it minimizes one other problem we'll have. In this case, it's actually a little bit different because we do have a small step in the ceiling. So that's where our wall finishes and our curve starts from there. 55. 59. Sweet, that's one top plate up. And now that's gonna be the bulkhead, but we're just still gonna put the top plate up there as well. This isn't the typical domestic build. I am building apartments and I'm kind of cityway right now, meaning I've got to follow some strict rules. One of them being, we need to be off site by 5. I probably started filming this video a little bit too late, but I've got 20 minutes to be off site. So I'm just gonna head home now and we'll just keep going on with the video when I get back tomorrow. All right, we're back at it today. I've just gone through and I've just put up the second top plate, the one we're just talking about. So in theory, what we should have is the end of that plate, and if this concrete, if this subfloor above us is all level, we'd have our other plate landing right about here. What I've done though is I've just done a pencil line there, and that's marking the end of this plate below us, the end of that wall. And that means I can get a top plate now, I can butt one side into that, and butt the other side into that pencil line, and that's exactly where it has to go. So I can hold that with one hand, shoot it with the other, and I'm not playing around with my levels and laser lines, trying to play around where this has to go. I've got 2 solid points, and I know exactly where to put this top plate. Sweet, both plates are in now, and we're ready to start measuring in our studs. If this is a stick frame, you'd have all your stud measurements and you're good to go. You'd also have your end 2 studs in too. So now we can just go in and fill in the studs. Working between 2 slabs, they should be level, the measurements should be the same, but I'm gonna go through and individually measure a few points. If they're the same, that's great, I'll go through, cut them all. If not, I'll have to individually measure every single stud to make sure that it all fits tight. 2661, 2664, 2664. Hey, that works. 2664. Let's get this first stud in. This is the top shot. If we move this bottom right to the edge there, that should be plumb. I still want to check it though. It's pretty good. Alright, so all the studs are in now, and the next part of the job is putting in the nogs. I've got a little trick, it's not really a trick, just an easy way to find the angles for what the nogs are going to be. All we're going to do is just hold a bit of timber up against the studs, push it against 2 studs like that, and using a ruler or anything that's straight, we'll sit that next to the stud, hard up, and what I can do is transfer that line onto the block. So I've got that line there. I don't want to cut that and then just go for every single nog and do that same method. What that line gives me is, if I put my speed screw up to it, is we can find out what degree that line is. So we can see it's about 7 degrees. So I'm going to use that. It may not be accurate for every single nog, but it should be close. I'm just going to be able to measure long point to long point, short point to short point, doesn't matter what I do, but use that 7 degrees for every single one of my nogs. I'm going to shoot them in, and it should work perfectly. Let's give it a shot. Just making sure that stud's straight, which it is. Short to short, we have 96. We are using 70mm timber here too. So I think that short point was 96mm. I'm actually going to make it a bit bigger. I'm going to even push it up and make it 100mm. It's a short point. We've got an extra 20mm since this is 70, the stud's out of 90. So I'm going to make the nog 100mm at the short point, so it can sit roughly in the middle of the stud. And that's 7 degrees there. Let's come across 100mm to the short point, mark 200. Let's go 7 degrees the other way. If you're doing this, you'd make it efficient and you'd go through with a full list of nogs, cut them all at the same time. If you got a miter saw, even easier, even quicker. Let's just chuck this one in though and let's make sure it works. It sits pretty good. We can see if I even it, we've got about 1 mil on either side of the gap. So the 7 degrees isn't going to be perfect everywhere. This is more of a template and I can actually go through and just check all the other spots. So that does work perfectly where we did measure the nog from before. It just shows that some of the studs may be slightly twisted and the angle might be a little bit bigger. So you can always play around with your angle or even move your stud or twist it slightly. It's probably not perfect if all the angles aren't the same.